News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. The U.S.-Israeli war on Iran has entered day 4. President Trump, ahead of his meeting with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz at the White House, says he figured Iran would strike if the U.S. and Israel didn't.
Based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first, and I didn't want that to happen. So, if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand.
The president says some European countries have been helpful on Iran. He had praise for NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. He added that he told Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to cut off all trade with Spain, which has pressed Europe to denounce the strikes on Iran as illegal. Iran sent missiles at countries hosting U.S. bases, including Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, and threatened to attack any ship attempting to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The fighting sent oil prices surging. Brent crude nearly 7% higher. WTI about 6.5% higher. Diesel has jumped by a record 34% in 2 days. Bloomberg Intelligence senior equity analyst Vincent Piazza says the markets seem to be reacting fairly rationally. The problem comes if there's more permanent damage.
If the infrastructure gets destroyed, if marine logistics become an issue, supply chains become an issue, a more permanent issue, then I think all bets are off and the uncertainty will prevail over rational minds.
Bloomberg Intelligence senior equity analyst Vincent Piazza. Saudi Aramco is exploring the option of delivering more cargo to Yanbu, a port on the Red Sea, as the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed. Alex Longley is an oil trade reporter for Bloomberg News.
The issue here is that from the moment this conflict began, the risk of sailing through the Strait of Hormuz was too great. And that's why we're starting to see an impact in oil markets of this kind of lack of availability of ships to transport oil from the Middle East to the rest of the world.
Now, the Red Sea is considered an alternative, but it's not risk-free either because of Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi militant groups. A sell-off for stocks wrapped around the world, and it's slamming into Wall Street. Oil prices leaping even higher on worries that the widening war with Iran may do more sustained damage to the economy than feared. We do check those markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 down almost 1.5%. NASDAQ down 1.6%. The Dow down about 1.5%. The Russell 2000 index now down 2.4%. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.06%. The 2-year yield at 3.51%. Bitcoin down now a little more than 2%. Spot gold down about 4.5%. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index is 0.75% higher. Israel says it struck the building where Iran's Assembly of Experts is meeting to choose a new supreme leader. Iran says that building was empty at the time. The Wall Street Journal reports the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, was under attack today, twice, bringing down part of the roof. Now, the State Department says 2 drones hit the building. Bloomberg Israel Bureau Chief Ethan Bronner is monitoring developments from Tel Aviv.
A lot of the decline of the market and the general sense of fear around the world has to do with the way the Iranians have responded to this war by attacking a half a dozen or 8 or 9 countries around it and really expanding this sense of conflict.
Bloomberg's Ethan Bronner in Tel Aviv. And votes are expected this week on Capitol Hill on bills to halt U.S. military action against Iran. They're shaping up largely along party lines. Bloomberg Intelligence senior analyst Nathan Dean says it's a little more than just symbolic.
So I think what Senator Tim Kaine, who is the sponsor of this resolution, and he did something very similar to Venezuela, is aiming to do is just essentially just put people on record ahead of the U.S. midterms, because current polling suggests that 60% of Americans are not on board with President Trump's strategy in Iran.
4 more Republican senators would need to defy President Trump for the measure to pass in the Senate. Some have yet to declare how they'd vote. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee, was asked by ranking Democrat Dick Durbin about the families grieving for those killed by immigration agents.
We are working in those situations where there's a tragic loss of life and that there is something that our agents are involved in, that we continue to deliver information.
Is it so hard to say you were wrong?
Noem did not apologize nor retract her statements about Alex Preddy and Renee Good, fatally shot by federal immigration agents in Minneapolis in January, whom she called domestic terrorists. Apollo Global Management CEO Mark Rowan says Jeffrey Epstein is a waste of his time, even from the grave. The alternative asset manager says he only dealt with the late sex offender through the firm's co-founder, Leon Black.
He was Leon's tax advisor. We ran a partnership, not a company back then. Leon's tax position was relevant to my tax position. Other than that, I'm very sorry, and I didn't see what Jeff was doing. Me, I didn't like him for my own reasons. He wasted my time.
Apollo CEO Mark Rowan spoke with Bloomberg News editor-in-chief John Micklethwaite at Bloomberg Invest in New York. Catch that full conversation at our new hub for streaming video and all our Bloomberg TV shows, bloomberg.com/videos. A father in Georgia has been found guilty of second-degree murder after his son used a gun to kill 2 students and 2 teachers at a high school. Colin Gray was found guilty of reckless conduct and cruelty to children. His sentencing will be set for a later date. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.